Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2026. So here we are, third day in a row doing a podcast. It's a new record for me. Pretty good. It's a lot of work doing all the backup stuff. Recording is the easy part. So welcome to the podcast. It's the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I'm your host, Greg Heitmann. I think I still have some stuff to say after 2 days of doing podcasts, and this will be the third day in a row. But it's sort of a sad day because this is going to be the end of season 1. I think I kind of prefaced that earlier that we're going to wrap this up. The first volume, the first 20 chapters are going to be done. I'm going to read the chapter 20 into the record today, and that title of that chapter is The Long Lake Duck Hunt. And this is the Colonel and the Kid podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Heitmann. So a little background on that. The Colonel is my grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr., and I'm the kid. What can I say? Not a kid anymore. Obviously, if you're watching this podcast, you can see that I'm pretty aged. So anyway, we're here. It's Thursday, January 1st, 2026, New Year's Day. It's so weird. 2026. This is I think I mentioned it a couple other times. This is the sesquicentennial. It's going to be 250th birthday. We're in the 250th birthday year of the United States of America, and I'm looking forward to it. To see what goes on, see all the celebrations and stuff. Should be good. But we're here. We're here to do the podcast and sort of document the memoir that I wrote about my grandfather, or for my grandfather, or in honor of my grandfather, as I say. This is a podcast now. This is the visual and audio portion of the accompaniment of the written memoir, and dedicated to my grandfather, my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, and big influence on my life. And I'm not sure. I think we got a pretty good title with it. Instead of calling it the Greg Heitmann podcast, which is meaningless, we got the Colonel and the Kid podcast and the Colonel and the Kid memoir. And I have this memoir, and the Colonel and the Kid memoir is the spine of the podcast, but I've branched out into other recurring segments and little recurring stories and things that might happen in my life. And I don't really have much today. I'm just going to probably do the chapter because it's a long chapter. I think it's the longest chapter in the first volume here. I think it's 16 pages and 14 photographs. So I got a lot of work pasting those into the video. The YouTube video portion of the podcast, so that'll take some time. But it's going to be a long chapter to read, and I don't think I'm going to have much else to add for the end. Maybe just a couple of marketing plugs for future podcasts and books that I currently have, and future books that I'm working on. I haven't really done much writing for a while, but try to get back to that soon. Maybe that'll be the part of the hiatus. I'll mention that at the end too, that there's going to be a little pause probably in the podcast. I'm not exactly sure. That maybe there won't be. Maybe we'll have some special editions here and there to talk about some of the ongoing sports events, and college football playoffs are on right now. And they're actually on right now as I speak. I'm not watching them. I'm holding off watching while I do this podcast so I can get this volume 1 and these first 20 chapters finally wrapped up. Big accomplishment. And I will mention that, before I read the chapter, I'm stop tiptoeing around it and just get to it, read the chapter. But I forgot what I was going to say. Something about the podcast. Well, it's the 20 chapters. I got the next 20 chapters. Well, I haven't got them ready to go, but I'm, the draft is there. They need some editing, and then they'll be ready to go. And I'll get those. I think I'm going to get those published on Kindle first, and then I will do the podcast, but I have to get my editor back up and running. And we'll see about once those are done, maybe in the meantime, maybe I'm working on finishing up the next book and maybe get that out. I'm going to put a deadline on myself before. Let's try to shoot for before the end of June. Get that book out. Maybe it'll be like the 4th of July, 250th anniversary celebration book that I can put on there. Maybe put some red, white, and blue logos on there for the 250th birthday, the sesquicentennial. So anyway, let's get to the chapter and get that into the electronic record finally and wrap this up. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Well, I got distracted by my own blabbering here. Now, I guess I forgot what I was going to say again. Anyway, it'll come to me, hopefully. So let's just read the chapter. This is chapter 20. Let's go. Chapter 20, The Long Lake Duck Hunt. And of course, we start the chapter with a quote. And quote, I intend to learn to call waterfowl, even if in the process I offend every year in the country, and I just might, end quote. And that's a quote from Aldo Leopold from his book, A Sand County Almanac in 1949. And I really enjoy that Aldo Leopold book. I try to read that probably every couple years. And it's just a year-long record of his working on his cabin that he had in Sand County, Wisconsin, and goes through each month with what's going on, whether it's in the fall, migration of the geese, and in the late fall, winter, cutting down a tree and chopping it up for heating his little cabin. In the springtime, new growth, new flowers, and the loss of some of the vegetation because of the roads and development, and just a really good book about conservation and conservation mindedness. So I highly recommend that book. It's called A Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. So if you've never read that book, it's something I guess it's on the top of my list for recommended reading in as far as just sharing knowledge and enjoying things. So glad I got that quote in there for today, and let's get to the chapter. I mentioned that duck hunting was my first love. It absorbed a lot of my thoughts in the free time of my teenage years and even younger. There were lots of things to think about and do, from school to sports in junior high and high school, but I loved ducks and hunting them. Even before I could carry a gun, I would just tag along with my dad and Grady, my older brother. I was still infatuated with ducks. As I look back, I can point to Grandpa for adding gasoline to the fire that fueled my passion for my ducks, and that was Grandpa's membership in Ducks Unlimited. You can't begin to imagine my shock when I discovered an entire organization dedicated to ducks. Ducks Unlimited is an organization whose mission statement is, quote, Ducks Unlimited conserves, restores, and manages wetlands and associated habitats for North America's waterfowl. These habitats also benefit other wildlife and people, end quote. Beyond the mission statement, Ducks Unlimited had a slick, glossy magazine that they produced 6 times a year. I remember discovering the magazine in Grandpa's den. I was immediately enamored with the magazine. The photos, the artwork of wildlife artists, and the stories captured my attention and have held me prisoner ever since. I was lucky enough back then to find the periodicals, and I still have some of the original Ducks Unlimited magazines from Grandpa's collection. Oh, the nostalgia. And we have the first photo of the chapter here, and I'll read the caption and try to describe it a little bit. Caption reads, Into every life a little rain must fall, is what we can see here with a couple of my Ducks Unlimited magazines from Grandpa. Both these magazines are dated 1979. They have traveled with me in moves from South Dakota to Iowa, from Iowa to Texas, and Texas to New Mexico. Just a few weeks ago, a fitting on the guest bathroom toilet leaked, and these magazines became a casualty of the water. You can see the warped pages in the photos, but I still have them, and I'll describe them a little bit. The one, there's there's two magazine covers that I have a photo of here, and it's one photo combined, I think. But on the left, the cover photo is the Ducks. It says Ducks Unlimited at the top, November, December, 1979, and it's a great big photo, almost taking the whole cover of the magazine. You have a Drake ringneck duck, and it's not in bright sunshine, sort of I think, overcast day, and it's got the perfect plumage of a ringneck duck in the water, swimming on top of the water, and it's really dark front features. Excuse me. Got that. It's got a golden eye, and it's looking right towards the camera. Beautiful white ring on its dark bill, and you can't really see what its namesake, the ringbill or ringneck duck. They call it a ringbill, I guess, with the white ring on it. But around the base of its neck, it has kind of a brownish colored ring around it, so that's why I call it a ringneck duck for some reason. But a lot of people call them ringbills, and they're a diving duck. And this is a really good example of the photograph they put on this magazine. And then to the right, on the right side of the photograph, is a cover of the Ducks Unlimited magazine dated April 1979. And this is it's a photograph of an artist. I don't know who the artist was. I should have probably looked at that before. Maybe I should have included that in caption so I'd know who it was. But it's a painting of two Canada geese swimming on the water, and they have the reflections on the water. In the background, it's kind of a reddish sky with clouds, like a sunset, but it's kind of a, I guess, more modern interpretation of that, because with that reddish sunset, the way the lighting is, it's kind of and more of an abstract picture. The shapes aren't abstract and the colors are correct, but you can definitely see it's got some artistic flair to it. Really nice. I really enjoyed this photo too, but it's to contrast the other Ducks Unlimited cover magazine that I just described, that it's a photograph and taking up the whole page of the front cover. This is two geese, and they're probably, the rule of the thirds of the art world, where you have the top third is the title in the red sky, the middle third are the two geese on the the focusing your attention in the middle, and in the bottom it's kind of the dark water with their kind of the rippled reflections in it. So you have the top third, middle third, and bottom third. Really good artistic representation, I believe. That's what I would say. Now we're getting into art criticism. This is a very diverse podcast, as you might tell. So, back to the chapter. It leads me to some thoughts of regret. I didn't hunt much with Grandpa. We, my dad, Grady, Garrett, and I, spent many a Saturday up in the hills on the Heitmann farm, hunting ducks around Long Lake, just a few miles from Lake City, South Dakota. Tucked into the heart of the Glacial Lakes region, we had a waterfowler's paradise. Long Lake wasn't a fisherman's lake. It wasn't deep or large. It did, however, seem to have everything ducks liked. I think every type of duck or goose you can imagine came through that area during the fall migration. Duck hunting at Long Lake fills the best of my best memories. And when I dream at night, the images often include ducks and hunting in that area. It wasn't the most convenient place to hunt ducks. We lived in Groton, which was a good hour drive away. You had to get up pretty early to be out in the field, ready to shoot a half hour before sunrise. God, how I loved Long Lake and duck hunting. I can't wait until I can do it again. It makes me recall the first year we were living back in South Dakota, and the duck season started. Opening day, we went up to the nearby public hunting area of Putney Slough, just north of Groton, about 20 miles on South Dakota Highway 37. We got a few ducks that day, and we were inspected by a game warden. Parked along the shoulder of the highway, we were a convenient target for an inspection. My dad was unimpressed with the hunt. And I can remember him with a bit of a frown and pursed lips. Tomorrow we'll go up to the farm and hunt around Long Lake. It'll be much better. I was in 6th grade at the time, so probably 11 years old. And you couldn't hunt until you were 12. But I remember thinking, what farm? I didn't even realize that the Heitmann farm existed. Well, I knew it had existed, but Grandpa and Grandma Heitmann had lived in Britain, South Dakota, as long as I had ever known. They still had the farm, but leased out the acres to somebody else to operate. We went the next day, and the trip, like I mentioned, is a full hour's drive through the hills. Half of it on less than stellar county roads. Paved roads, but still county roads. We were a little late. The sun was already up before we got there. I was taken along with my dad in this very foreign but beautiful country. It seemed so big, or rather, I seemed small at the time. We were going to the Point, which is the best place to sit and shoot ducks passing over the little jutting piece of shore out into the big water of the lake. I said it before, and I will say it again. I look forward to the day I can hunt up there again. The memory is vivid in my mind. Following my dad on the walk out to the Point, with the sun just above the horizon, it was going to be a beautiful October day. A nice flock of ducks, bigger ducks, came within range, cutting in front of my dad. I knew right away what they were as my dad fired. A big one dropped, and I ran to retrieve it. It was a beautiful canvasback duck. I knew all the ducks from hours studying the Know Your Ducks and Geese booklet I had from Sports Afield. I had memorized them all, even the sea ducks we would never see in the Central Flyway. And I have a picture of the Sports Afield's Know Your Ducks and Geese. There's the picture of the cover of that book, and it's I'll read the caption here. This is not the original copy of the booklet that I owned. For some reason, this copy is a yellowed version of what should be a white copy. I wore out the cover of the original I got as a 6 or 7-year-old kid when we lived in North Dakota. I studied the info in this book like my life depended on it. The illustrations and data on waterfowl in this book are seared into my brain. And the cover on this little booklet, it's probably like a little, I would say like a 4x6 little booklet. And it had a glossy cover, and on the cover is a picture of a nice drake greenhead mallard flying from right to left. He's facing the left side of the booklet, his wings spread out. You're kind of like at eye level with him as his wings are just straight even with you. You can maybe see that you can just see the bluish purple speculum on his wings bars there. He's got a bright green head, curly tail feathers, and it says Know Your Ducks and Geese, and it's got a printed price tag of 75 cents on the front there at the bottom, and it says 32 full color plates and descriptive material identifying America's ducks and geese. So very cherished memory. I have the original someplace, but I couldn't find it, so I purchased a copy of this book from Amazon. I don't know what I paid for it, maybe $5. Way more than the 75 cents that it's marked. But this one was all yellowed. And I guess in desperation to help finish up this memoir, I bought this copy just so I could take a picture of it and include it. But there it is. It's pretty cool. Now, hopefully you can watch the video sometime, see the photos I add into the video podcast on YouTube, and you can enjoy this great picture. But anyway, back to the story. That big duck that my dad shot, it was a bull canvasback, and it had a band on its leg. As it turned out, according to the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks regulations, it was illegal to shoot canvasbacks that year in Marshall County. But the long arm of the law was so very far away on that second day of the season, on the private land of the farm. What a memory. A few years later, I set out my own goal to get a nice canvasback of my own to mount and put on the wall. I did get one, but I never mounted it. I just took some photos. I didn't have the money to spend on such an extravagant thing. I kind of regret it, but it motivates me to go up there again someday. Something I can actually put on my bucket list and get my own, quote, can for the trophy wall. It's no wonder I have such a desire to get back to South Dakota and recreate these good times. It's nice to have something to look forward to. What a feeling, the butterflies building up in your stomach as the hunting season approaches, the difficulty in sleeping the night before, and then the surreal feeling of walking in the dark as the sun gets ready to rise and the season commences. For me personally, I don't have any comparable feelings that can duplicate the experiences I have enjoyed in the field or in the anticipation of hunting. Not having my own children provides limits to the range of emotions that a parent might most closely equate to those I have felt to field. Who am I to say what others might feel? I must remind myself periodically that these words I type are mine and form my perspective only. And then I have this, I have the photo here, and this is, I'll read the caption and then try to describe it a little bit. October 1994. Shadow and I pose for a photo after a duck hunt at Long Lake. I have to make a comment on my hat in this photo. It's a camouflage cap that says, "This is my gun jamming, dog losing, deer missing hunting cap. For some reason, this was my early season lucky hat. I don't remember why exactly it became a lucky cap. It just was. By all indications, it worked because I did get a nice straight canvasback while wearing it." So this photo is from the day I got that canvasback, and it's just a baseball type cap. It's really it's warm weather. It was warm out that day, cool before the sun got up, but not you know not that you had to wear much for extra clothing. And I'm dressed in my my typical outfit that I wore hunting all the time. It was a red plaid flannel shirt, like a lumberjack shirt, and that was what I wore. That's how I pictured a hunter should look, and so that's what I wore pretty much every day when I'd be hunting, whether it was ducks, geese, pheasants, whatever. And I took this picture with the old camera that my dad had, and I kind of just co-opted to my own. I still have it someplace. I think it's actually in the safe, my gun safe. And it was a Fujika brand. I don't even know if anybody knows what Fujika is. I'm not even sure what it is. Not Fuji, but Fujika. So this photo, it had a little timer on that camera, and it was just a regular manual film camera, but it had a timer. So I put it on the back of the pickup that I had, and I took this timed photograph of me sitting with Shadow, our black lab, and she was pretty old at that time. She was probably 7 or 8 years old, and she's got kind of gray white muzzle on her hair on her muzzle, and I'm looking at the camera, and she's got her ears back, kind of looking away from the camera, because she was not really that good of a dog. She was very stubborn and didn't like to be told what to do, and didn't like to sit, and I don't know, she was not much of a hunting dog, but she was there with me that day, and she may have even retrieved that canvasback that I got. But so we're sitting there out in the pasture, and there's tall grass behind us, and I'm sitting down, and the camera's on the tailgate, so we're kind of lower, and for some reason there's a piece of grass kind of in the way right across my plaid shirt and across my face a little bit, and so it's kind of it turns into a classic photograph because of that blurry piece of grass, just a grass stem that got in the way of the photograph. And check out the video podcast sometime. You'll enjoy that. And here it is. This is the classic photograph, and I'll read the caption here. Here's a special photo from October 1994, taken on the point at Long Lake. This is the beginning of my time dragging a camera into the field. This was the day I got a Drake canvasback, 13 years after my dad had shot one on the second day of the season in 1981. I had completed my own mini quest. The harvest for that day included a nice Drake ringneck duck and a hen goldeneye. And if you kick it back to the first photograph I shared, that's a Drake ringneck duck. That was it was a similar species to the one that was on the cover of that Ducks Unlimited magazine. And so I have this photograph, and it's not a landscape photo. This is a portrait photograph. And the ducks are laid out on some grass and the rocks there on the point. And closest is the beautiful Drake canvasback, and it really shows the colors in the bright sun. Got that rust colored head, black chest, white breast, and it's on its back, so you can't even see this namesake canvasback, and it's named canvasback because of the feathers, the way the feathers look on its back. It resembles raw canvas, but I think this is the way it's posed here. It shows the striking colors just that much better, and you can kind of get a feel for this nice sloping beak, beautiful beak it's got, or bill. I guess ducks have bills. It's just a beautiful, handsome bill that it has, and then behind it, the second duck is the drake ringneck duck, and then behind that duck is a hen goldeneye. It's got pretty good coloring. It's got kind of a brownish head. It's not the iridescent, shiny rust color of the canvasback, but still pretty dapper looking female duck. Most of the ducks that are female are not very colorful at all, but this one has a little more dynamic coloring. And I wanted to mention, way in the background, that you can see the shore. You can see some of the rushes and cattails, and I don't know what other kind of water vegetation that's back there. And you can see the shoreline, and the wind must be coming from the like the northwest that day, west northwest, and there's a bunch of foam on the shoreline from the waves just lapping, and how that foam kind of builds up with the wave action. It's kind of interesting to me how that is, along the lakes, along the lake shores when it's windy like that. And great photo. Just that's very, very meaningful photo to me. I'm glad I have it. And like I said, regret that I don't have the mount of the duck on my wall, but maybe I'll get one someday. There's still time. And we're on to the next photo, and I'll read the caption. It's a really long caption, and then describe the photo some more. Circa 1963, Grandpa poses for a photo with a nice drake canvasback and a couple drake mallards in his boat on Peaver Slough. This is one of my favorite photos of Grandpa out in the field. There's a lot going on in this photograph. First of all, kudos to Grandpa for wearing the classic red flannel shirt. Around his neck is a duck call that I think I have in my possession now. Speaking of, quote, in my possession, if I am not mistaken, I have that shotgun that's in this photo with me today. Sorry, Grady and Garrett, it's mine now, because possession is 9/10 of the law. That shotgun at Grandpa's feet is a 12-gauge Remington Model 11 based on a Browning Auto 5 patent. It's pretty awesome. I also just noticed the gun case curled under the gun next to the ammo box. I believe that gun case is the only gun case I ever saw my dad use for his 12-gauge Belgium-made Browning Auto 5 shotgun with 32-inch barrel. That gun is still encased by that protective sleeve today, although the case looks a little worse for the wear 60 years later. And I'll add parenthetically that I also have that shotgun with its case sitting right next to me. I'm not going to hold it up or anything, but we'll get those distributed out to the proper owners. But I took control of those to make sure they got moved properly when my mom moved out of the house. I don't claim them as mine, as much as the caption might indicate, but I have them in protective custody so we can get them set aside to the heirs appropriately in the future. But they're under my domain right now. I'm just a steward for them. That's all I can say. Anyway, this is a great color photograph. I just really appreciate that Grandpa had these photos taken out in the field, and I mean, it inspired me, I think, to go out and drag that camera along, get some photos and record some of the early history of my life, and before cell phones were ever invented, and it's the photo. I'll describe Grandpa a little bit. Grandpa's got his Jones style hunting cap on. It's just a solid, tannish brown hunting cap. But Grandpa he's just very stoic, just unsmiling, maybe almost a little, I wouldn't maybe not say a frown, but just expressionless, staring at the camera. He's got his jacket unzipped, It looks like a heavier jacket, but he's not wearing gloves, so it must not be that cold out. But the duck boat that he's in is pushed into the tall phragmites in the slough, and they're like towering above him. I don't know, they're probably like 10 feet tall, so they probably got some good cover for the hunting that day. But he's got at least two nice mallards there, just fully colored, fully plumaged on his left hand, and in his right hand he's holding the body of the canvasback drake, and it's the neck and head is draped down over his knees, so you can really see the elegant neck and the rust colored head, black chest, and the white breast and abdomen of that duck. And in his left hand, he's kind of holding the mallards in around the neck, and their heads of the greenhead mallards are really the iridescent green. It's just perfect, and just a really great photo. I'm assuming that photograph was taken by Richard Hansen, Grandpa's brother-in-law, from the other end of the boat. And it's just I doubt that they staged this photograph, but have the um, gun in the picture pointing one direction, then the ammo box. It's like a big military ammo box, but that it's opened up and the cover of the ammo box is facing diagonally in the other direction. I mean, the composition of the photograph, whether they set it up or not, is just about as perfect as you can get. I mean, this could be the cover of Ducks Unlimited. Maybe I should send this in to Ducks Unlimited and see if they would publish it on a cover or in the story. Maybe they'll publish my story. So maybe I'll submit this chapter as just a story to Ducks Unlimited and advertise my memoir of my grandfather as a through this chapter that can be submitted to Ducks Limited, and they can use this photo and even have a better historic preservation of the photograph and the story of Grandpa. But anyway, then we have another photograph, and this is a photograph of a duck stamp print that I own, and I'll read the caption and then just try to describe it here. I can partially attribute my obsession with the canvasback duck to the 1982 federal duck stamp. This piece of art adorns my bedroom wall and encapsulates duck hunting as I knew it from the 1980s and 1990s. The big water of Long Lake, the overcast skies forecasting flocks of ducks, and of course the big king can, the canvasback, was the fastest flying duck, and it was a big heavy-set bird. They would literally roar out of the sky when coming into the lake from altitude. The air rushing over their wings as the flock's descent to the water sounded like a jet. With a regally sloped bill set against a black chest, dividing the rusty red head and the snow-white abdomen, the drake canvasback is a sight to behold. And I think this is the print by David Moss, Maas. And it was probably really the first time I even understood what a duck stamp was. And it's just there's the duck stamp print itself it's framed and matted. And then below it, it's got two federal duck stamps they're not signed or anything across them. So they weren't, I guess, maybe technically, maybe they weren't issued. But the image is a big drake canvasback, kind of like banking into the wind, wings spread out, and you can kind of see the canvas, the canvas texturing through the feathers on his back. And then there's another drake further behind, but right almost wingtip to wingtip is the hen canvasback, and it's just the overcast sky and the rushes and cattails and a big water lake with some bigger waves, and the ducks are flying into the wind, kind of coming quartering towards you, like maybe you're in a duck blind, you could see them coming and can maybe get a shot at them. But really just the epitome of what I guess duck hunting was to me at that time, and how I just think about duck hunting and how that's my first thought. whenever I think about hunting ducks. But back to the chapter. I can only recall duck hunting with Grandpa one time. I think it was in the late 1980s. I never thought about it that much, not having Grandpa come duck hunting with us. He lived about 15 miles away from Long Lake, a short drive from his home just outside Siston. It puzzles me now when I think about it why he didn't hunt with us, but I do have a theory. It goes back to the aging process and all that comes with it. Grandpa was getting into his late 60s, early 70s in my teenage heyday of duck hunting at Long Lake. When you get older, you start prioritizing what you're going to get up, when you're going to get up before the crack of dawn for. But moreover, I think it goes back to mortality. I think Grandpa took a long break from hunting because he didn't want to kill. There was a turning point for him where I suspect it was his last hurrah at hunting, along with the chance to make some memories with the grandkids. We were lucky to have his company on those rare occasions that he did come out in the field with us. And here I have another photo of vintage photo of Grandpa, and I'll read the caption and then try to describe it. I felt obliged to include this nice photo of Grandpa and his waders afield on a duck hunt at Peever's Slough circa 1964. I'm impressed by the vibrant color film from that time. And this is a photo of Grandpa. He's holding up two really nice big greenhead mallards. And he's looking at the camera. Almost looks like maybe he's saying something to the photographer as he's getting the picture taken. But he's holding up the wings of the ducks, of the mallard, the big greenheads. And he's holding like let's say the duck's right wing, and then they're falling down onto his leg. I guess he's kind of got propped up when he's standing in the slough, and you can see that they're just big. They're just big ducks, and you can get a view of the coloring of the abdomen and the chestnut brown on their chest and neck area, and then you can kind of get a glimpse of the greenish purplish heads. They're just exceptionally large ducks, it seems like to me, and the vibrant colors. So it's Grandpa, and it's pretty much his same uniform. Maybe who knows? Maybe this is the same day that the canvasback picture that I described earlier was taken, but because he's got the same, it's his hunting outfit probably too. Like for me, because I can barely catch a glimpse of his red flannel shirt underneath, but he's got his coat zipped up and his hood up and his Jones hunting cap on. And the water looks this really deep midnight blue color, and it's got some of the rushes there that are not the phragmites that from like I had described before that were just towering like 10 feet tall, but some of these weeds are probably up to maybe just the top of his head, but they're thin, and you can see a lot of the water in the slough versus the other photo. But really a great photo. It looks like it's a little maybe scratched up. Maybe the slide got a little dust or scratched, but because these were slides that I had, then I used a little contraption to get photographs from them. But really like this photo, and that's why I included it. And then another photo. Here's another photo of Grandpa and his crew of hunters with a nice bag of ducks from Peever's Slough circa 1962. Left to right, Fred Hagen, Grandpa, Dorman Hansen, and Boyd Hansen. Richard Hansen was presumably behind the camera that day, and Boyd and Dorman were his nephews. So it's from left to right. They got Freddie, and he's got a strap, like it's a game strap where it's just like a piece of canvas, and it's got a metal, two metal rings attached to it, metal rings with a loop, and then kind of a tapering. It almost looks like a duck's head with a bill, but you put the duck's head through the ring, and then it's got sloping down, so their heads catch in there, and you can hold a bunch of ducks in one hand with that game strap. And Freddie's holding that in one hand. I don't know if he's got his gun in the other hand, but Grandpa's got just two handfuls of ducks. Looks like they're all mallards, big hen mallard in the front, but several several greenheads, and and then it looks like Dorman Hansen, he's holding the paddles for the boat for some reason, and also holding the ducks. And then Boyd he's I particularly like Boyd's um, picture here because he's got a shell vest. It looks like there's one shell still left in his vest. Like, got a lot of shooting that day, and I can't tell if he's holding it, just the ducks. Basically, it's not the best photo. It's kind of a little bit darker. It's not the best lighting in the photo. It's overcast, but you can see the tall slough grass and rushes behind them, and really good picture. And I meant to say this, but I'll say it now in this photograph that it's, to me, again, it's striking how much Grandpa looks like my older brother Grady in these photos, because at the same, at an older age, the resemblance is uncanny to me. But I don't know. Maybe maybe some people will say I look like Grandpa, but to me, I think it's just hauntingly similar to Grandpa, that resemblance. So anyway, back to the chapter as we continue talking about hunting with Grandpa. We met Grandpa at the Heitmann farm along the overgrown two-rut trail that peeled off South Dakota Highway 25 toward the old farmstead. Grandpa was waiting for us, ever the military man, to be not just on time, but early. He waited in his 1981 red Chevy pickup truck. More on the red truck to come in a later chapter. And later, that truck became affectionately known as, quote, the Bomber. What makes this story especially memorable was that Grady had forgotten his gun. Grandpa, to the rescue. He handed over his gun to Grady, and the hunt went forward. Garrett, Grandpa, and I headed to the point with a few decoys. Grady and Dad were going to the south side of the lake to poke around and mostly hope to move the ducks around for us to maybe get some shots on the point. Grady was not the only one to flub things that day. I had an issue overtopping my hip waders, setting out decoys before sunup. Reaching to adjust a stray decoy, instead of just leaving it be, I foolishly flooded one of my boots. Then I had to deal with cold, wet pants and socks the whole morning. It's a good lesson. Who cares about a stray decoy? Certainly not the ducks and the first few flights of birds before the sun gets up in the sky. So here's another couple photos. And the first photo is, I'll read the caption here and then try to describe. I thought this would be a good place to include the photo of the Heitmann hunting vehicle. Circa 1981, this was the all-purpose vehicle getting us afield. I think it was a 1979 Subaru station wagon. It got the job done just fine, but it was a far cry from our luxurious four-wheel drive pickup trucks we have today. So this is parked in the driveway of my parents' Groton house in Groton, South Dakota. Like I said, circa 1981, and it's almost treeless in the neighborhood at that time. And the photo is kind of looking to the north from the south side of the driveway. And in the background, you can see there's an apartment building, and it's the Lockens house. They were our neighbors across the street, kitty corner. And Lauren Locken was a science chemistry teacher in high school, and Linda Locken was a 6th grade teacher. And man, it's a bright yellow, well, maybe a dull yellow Subaru, and it looks so tiny in this photo. It's just hard to believe that was our car. And we were kids, I guess. We were small, so it wasn't probably a big deal for us to ride in it now. But if you try to put the three of us kids in there now, and my mom and dad as adults, it would be just like a clown car. But classic yellow vintage Subaru. Love it. Love the picture. And here's another photograph, and I'll read the caption and then talk about it a little bit. Photographed in the yard in Groton after successful hunt at Long Lake circa 1981. Looks like 11 big ducks, including a couple of mature redhead drakes and a nice drake mallard. So it's just in the grass in the front yard. Got all these big ducks. Dad didn't take the camera with him back then, so there was no field photos. So we just have these ducks kind of laid out, and they're all head first in the grass, taken in. It's an okay photo. I guess it's not as crisp and clear as I'd like to have. You can see in the middle, the pinpointed center of attention is the two nice red-headed ducks, drakes, and a nice green-headed mallard. I don't think I got any of those. I probably couldn't hit the broadside of a barn back then when I was first hunting. And then circa 1981, Grady hoists the game strap, a gift from Grandpa, teaming with ducks after the successful Long Lake duck hunt. See the photo above for a complete count of the ducks. And Grady's got all the ducks on the game strap except one. He's got the nice redhead, one of the nice redheaded drakes. I'm pretty sure that he got that. And you can't get a good look at the ducks that well, but you can see Grady. It's amazing because he's in a t-shirt. It must have been a nice October day, real mild weather, and you can see the Groton house front siding in the background there. There's the planter full of marigolds still alive. Must not have a frost yet, killing frost, because the marigolds still look alive. And then there's that fake brick siding on the front of the house there back then. It looked good because I think it was brand new, maybe that summer, probably just when we moved in. And I think we moved there in, was it 1980? So we've been there like a year maybe. And I think that was one of the things my parents put on right away, is this steel siding, and then kind of like highlighting this fake brick siding too, that looked nice there in that photo. And here's another photograph, circa 1983. Garrett, Greg, and Grady display a nice haul. 3 Canada geese and a nice greenhead after a day up at Long Lake. So 1983, Garrett was probably 10. I was like 14. Grady was probably 17. So it's a classic photo because must be a nice mild October day, because Garrett and I are just wearing like a thermal long sleeve shirt, and Grady's got a camouflage sweatshirt on, but Grady's holding up 2 of the big honkers, and I got a goose honker in my hand, and Garrett's holding up a nice mallard greenhead. We all got our Jones style hunting caps on. Garrett and I have the camouflage version. The Grady's got a solid brown Jones style with the classic camouflage shirt. And I should mention, if you're watching the podcast too, you can see I broke out the classic camouflage pattern from like the 1970s, 60s, and this is the vintage, and it's new, but it's from Orvis, and they had like the flashback camo, so I bought this just for nostalgia purposes. But so this photo again is in the front yard, and you can see this is a couple years later, but you can see there's a nice bush in the background, a little more vegetation growing. I think there's a planter in place, and so the marigolds are up in the planter now, instead of just being flush with the sidewalk from 1981. So if you can get a better view of the house there in the brick, big picture window, and the steel siding, the brown steel siding of the house, and the fake shutters on the bedrooms in the back behind us there. So house looks good. Very, very nostalgic looking at these photographs. One more photograph and then get back to the chapter, but this is a photograph. I'll read the caption here and then try to describe it now. Circa 1966, Grandpa poses with some nice Canada geese after a successful hunt. And looks like he's got like at least three honkers, 3 nice Canada geese there, and he's in a little strip of grass in his camouflage, like the vintage camouflage, next to a field, a disked up field. They must have had some decoys out in the field and shot some nice geese that day. And Grandpa is really smiling. It's kind of a little further back photograph, so you can't really see much of his face and distinguish his face that much, but I like this photograph because he's actually smiling while hunting, displaying some of his success. I don't know what that is. There looks like a cardboard box. Maybe that's where the decoys were. They've picked up, and I'm just not exactly sure what other equipment's in kind of the off to the side of him there. Don't see his gun. Maybe that's laying there behind him too, but you can see that it's still some green out in the field there, so it hasn't been too cold apparently. I like that photograph. I guess maybe I picked out that photograph because of the nice Canada geese, but specifically for the camouflage, the classic print, that camouflage pattern in his little poncho or whatever jacket he's got and his hat. Just that's what I associate with hunting. Just that classic camouflage pattern, especially duck hunting. Not so much, deer hunting or anything like that. But anyway, back to the story of Grandpa duck hunting with us out in Long Lake there. It turned into a beautiful October day, and I'm sure we got a few ducks in the bag, but I have no memory of any birds we harvested that day as being exceptional. The only thing special about that day was being there with Grandpa. If there's a lesson here, it has to be cherish the moment and live in the moment. It's so difficult today to prevent getting ahead of yourself. The instant gratification of the cell phone dominates lives today. Phones are an amazing tool, but what are we missing? You can decide. What if I would have had a cell phone that day out in the duck blind with Grandpa? Would it have been a distraction and caused us to miss some ducks? Probably. It sure would be cool to have a couple of videos or photos from that hunt that day, but the memories I do have are likely better with age, and with no actual evidence, they can remain untainted and pristine. So, got a couple more photos here, and that'll be the end of the chapter. But I'll read this, the caption, and then try to describe. This photo was a recently discovered treasure. On the back of the photo, in Grandpa's best military script, it reads, "Right to left, Hagen, Galbraith, Foss, and Argo, Sand Lake, circa 1974. It's very interesting to me because Sand Lake was a pretty good haul to go hunt for Grandpa. Sand Lake National Wildlife Refuge is about 30 miles from Groton, where I grew up, but it's about 70 miles from Siston. My dad, Grady, and I spent a lot of weekends during the fall along the fence line of the refuge waiting for snow geese." So the picture is a black and white photo, and like I said, circa 1947. And it's the four men that were listed, and they're each holding, looks like they each got 2 Canada geese. That must have been the limit, I suppose, when they were hunted up there. And there's a great big black lab. It's facing the men as they're being photographed, and all the guys got their geese in one hand and a gun in the other, except the one guy, he's got his hand in his pocket. He's not holding his shotgun. And they're just standing along a dirt road, it looks like, in a tree-lined dirt road. And they're very, very lightly dressed, just like maybe sweaters, not even a jacket. And just looks like they're unprepared for the photograph. Grandpa looks like he's actually scowling a little bit. And the one guy's looking, the guy to my grandpa's right is looking at my grandpa like, "What are you doing?" And there's one guy is actually looking at the camera smiling, and the guy without the gun, way to the far left of the photograph, he's got his hand in his pocket and he's looking at Grandpa. I don't know, maybe Grandpa had said something like, probably, "Take the picture already." But I don't know. It's black and white photo. It's not that crisp. It's not especially crisp or anything. So, but what I should have is the actual photograph of the back of the photo itself, and because I read what my grandpa had written on there in the inscription, and it's written in his, like I said, best military script, but it's in all caps, like you would if you're writing for the military messages and stuff, and really like it. Really like that photograph. And then finally, we have a picture of, I'll read the caption, then try to describe it. This photo is in the Aberdeen area. It is of the South Dakota Highway 20 bridge over James River. Chief Drifting Goose Memorial Bridge. I wanted to include this photo for the quote below. And let me describe the bridge the photo with the bridge in it, and then talk about it a little bit, and then read the quote. So this is just a picture. There's not much of a bridge, just a bridge on the James River. And it's on South Dakota Highway 20. Not that, I don't think it's not super highly traveled highway, but it's, took this highway a lot driving over to Grady's after he moved to Falkton. This was like one of the main routes you could take over to go see Grady and Falkton from Groton. And this photo was actually taken, I think, in early March 2021 after my dad had passed away. And we were driving, and I was working on this memoir before that, and then during that time too. But I stopped to take this picture on the trip over, and because they had this newer sign. This sign is not that old over this bridge, and it was a brown sign, a brown highway sign, and it's commemorating Chief Drifting Goose. And I don't really have a history of what he did for the Native Americans in that area, but somehow they decided that was a worthwhile effort to put up a little sign and dedicating the bridge to Chief Drifting Goose. And I thought I'd get a photograph of it, put it in this chapter just for preserving posterity. And then it's just kind of an overcast day. Pavement looks it's got a chip seal on it, so it's more gray than the black asphalt highway that you'd think of. And it's kind of the early spring, just the desolate feeling just before things start coming back to life after the hard winter and getting green. Kind of just a summary of probably my thoughts and feelings that time, just a couple months after my dad had passed away, and probably just a good bookmark for me to have in this chapter. And I'll finish the chapter here and then talk about what comes next, I guess. So we like to end the chapter with a quote, and we got a good quote here. Quote, "A goose represents the rebel in all of us, and because they're wild and free, they have a certain quality that shines out and makes us wish that we were not bound to labor in life, but rather that we could drift as they do with the seasons." End quote. And that's by Paul S. Burnson from the North American Waterfowler, 1972. So I put that quote in there at the end to end this chapter with the photo of Chief Drifting Goose, because it talks about drift as they do with the seasons. And that's what we do. We do that anyway as human beings. And as the seasons change, we just drift along with them, changing ourselves and getting old. Like I said, it's hard to believe it's 2026. And I think I mentioned the other day too that it's taken me 5 years to get here. I had most of this stuff written 5 years ago, and yet it was unpublished until the first 20 chapters weren't published until in 2024. And now we're just working on the podcast and the electronic video and audio preservation of this in January 1st, 2026. So it's amazing to me how we just, like I said, drift along. But anyway, that's the end of the chapter. And let's see, before I wrap this up, I think we've been going on quite a long time already. Let me check this. Now we're an hour in, so I'm not going to talk too much about anything else. Just maybe wrap things up for this. This is going to be the end of season 1. This is going to be last podcast for what I'm calling season 1 of the Colonel and the Kid podcast. And before I do that, this podcast is sponsored by Buffalo Lake Book that I wrote, the Charlie LeBeau series. So get your copy now. You can get Kindle version or get your paperback version. And actually, I know that Amazon they have an option so that you can make hardcover books, and I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to develop that in the future here, so that I can get at least for myself. Then I can make them available for sale too, but just for myself, my own collection of hardcover books of all the books I've done. And maybe I'll do this one first, just because just start out in the middle for some weird reason. And I don't know if I don't know if you can if they make dust jackets for them too. So that would be cool if I get a dust jacket of this image. And anyway, so get your book, get your Buffalo Lake Charlie LeBeau mystery. And I have to say that because again, I'm so proud of myself for finding my poster that was lost all that time, then rediscovering it. It's just, I know that's one of the 7 deadly sins, pride, but I'm just so happy with myself that I found that, so that I can share it with the podcast and kind of just keep moving forward with the books. Like I said, I have all posters for all my books, and eventually all those posters will be displayed there behind me as I do the video podcast for those of you actually watching, not just listening. So anyway, there it is. And you can see this one resembles the poster. The book actually resembles the poster very closely. Not like the Long Hollow book that was all perfectly white and the poster was all yellow sun faded poster. So enough of that. Anyway, yeah, I should, I'm going to say it again. Thus ends the season 1 of the podcast and volume 1 of the memoir, the Colonel and the Kid memoir and podcast. So that's it. Season 1's over. And, I meant to mention this right away, but I'm glad I have it in my notes here so I could look at it and be reminded. Today, I'm officially retired from my 30 plus years working for federal government, and it can't be any better than this. Just being officially retired. I'm going to be able to speak my mind, speak freely, even though I was semi-retired because I had been put on permanent leave for the last 9 months, 10 months. But officially retired. I don't have to hold back now about anything. And you'll hear some of my comments coming up in the future. And but for the time being, we're just going to celebrate the new year being retired and enjoy things. So we're going to we might have a little hiatus of the podcast too, as we get ready for season 2, volume 2 of the memoir. We're going to be working on that shortly, and hopefully have that out. I don't know, sooner the better, but I'm not going to make any promises. I'll throw it there in the upcoming months. Chapters 21 through 40, it got some good ones. This again, I'm really glad I have this memoir and that I can do this podcast, put it on the record and preserve it for posterity. But just a preview. I'm gonna go over this because this was part of the Kindle volume at the end of it, and so I had a little written coming soon on here. And I'm gonna go ahead and I think I have this electronically, so I can just read it from the prompter here. Yeah, so the next chapters, chapter 21 is the bomber. Chapter 22 is the Yogi Berra article. Chapter 23, St. Christopher Medal. Chapter 24, State B basketball tourney. Chapter 25, the gambling. Chapter 26, the duck decoys. Chapter 27, the military. Chapter 28, American Legion. Chapter 29, West River deer hunting. Chapter 30, the Webster basketball game. Chapter 31, the drive. Chapter 32, the Long Lake deer hunt. Chapter 33, the politics. Chapter 34, the bedtime stories. Chapter 35, the daughters, part 1. Chapter 36, the sun, and it's S-O-N, the sun. Chapter 37, the pheasant hunting, part 3. Chapter 38, the poetry. Chapter 39, the last pheasant hunt. And chapter 40, the mail route. So that's that'll be volume 2, 20 chapters. And I had a little note at the end of the the volume 1 here. I'll just read that. I hope you have enjoyed my family history so far. As I have noted, all these stories flow through the filter of my own eyes. Thus, I'm sure it's slightly skewed. Nonetheless, I find it entertaining, and I hope you do too. Volume 2 is right around the corner and should be just as interesting, if not more so. Cheers, Greg. So that's it. That's the volume 1, season 1 of the Colonel and the Kid podcast. So glad you're here to share it with me. So I will, I'm just going to say, might be a brief hiatus. There might be some intermittent podcasts if we get the boys back together, the crew, talk about some football. I don't know if they have time. They have busy lives. It's been during Christmas and New Year's vacation right now, so I've had privilege of having those guys, my brother Garrett and my nephew AJ on the podcast. Some special editions. Don't know if I'll have time in the future to do that. Maybe we'll make some time. We can do that, but in the interim, we're not going to have any more chapters of the Colonel and the Kid memoir itself. But you can look forward to that, and we'll build some anticipation. It's sort of like it's like why diamonds are interesting and great because they're rare, and that's what these podcasts are going to be for a while. You'll have to go back and just re-listen to all the podcasts and see how ridiculous they are, and re-enjoy the absurdity of my life. I guess most of the absurdity is probably more in the football picks and football commentary, but you can enjoy just the history of the Colonel and the Kid. Anyway, let's start off the year right. Let's go ahead and be positive. I'm just going to try to maintain that glass half full attitude. You know what I say? Be assertive, be positive, be proactive, all those things. And I'm going to sign off for an unknown amount of time. We'll see what we can do. But I just throw it to you. You take action. And I leave you with this. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and you shall be given. So that's it for this podcast. Thanks for joining. Have a good hiatus. Enjoy this new year, 2026. It's going to be memorable. Thanks so much. And it's not goodbye. It's just see you next time.